In this video, I'll be talking about some features in DX ToolBox which are particularly useful when you're listening to shortwave broadcast radio stations. This is the main window you see when you first launch DX ToolBox that has real-time solar data. The windows I'll be talking about mostly are the Shortwave Broadcast Schedule, the Reminders window, and the logbook. I'll also talk a little bit about the gray line map. When you open the Shortwave Broadcast Schedule window, you get a list of shortwave and also some long wave and medium wave transmissions that are on the air throughout the day. The data in the list comes from the EIBI website, and it's updated. They usually update several times per month. And DX ToolBox can be set up to automatically check each time you start to see whether there's an update, and it will automatically download the new schedule. Or you can push the download button and it'll force a new download. For each entry in the schedule, there's the name of the station, the frequency in kilohertz, the time in UTC that the station's on the air, the days of the week if they're not on every day of the week, the country that the station is from, and note that this is the country that the shortwave station itself is from, not necessarily the transmitter site. The target or the part of the world that the broadcast is aimed to, the language that the transmission is in, and the location of the actual transmitter site. Transmissions that are currently on the air are highlighted in bold, which makes them easy to spot. If you'd like, you can of course just see only the transmissions that are currently on the air now. That helps to reduce the amount of extra information you see, the transmissions that aren't on right now. There's a number of buttons at the bottom here for the various shortwave broadcast meter bands. By picking these buttons, you can immediately jump to that particular band without having to scroll up and down to find it. You can optionally turn off whether the transmitter site is shown on the right hand side. If your screen's not large or you don't want to see that, you can turn that off, although I do find it pretty handy to see. In addition to just manually going down through the list of broadcasts, you can also do searches. And you can search on a number of different fields. You can search by the station name, or by frequency, time, country, target location in the world, or the language. So for station name, we can type in all or part of the station name, for example, BBC, and we'll get a list of all the BBC transmissions. If we like to see only those that are on now, we can check that box, hit search, and we'll get the BBC transmissions that are on the air right now. Likewise, we can search by frequency. This is handy. Say you're tuning around, you come across a transmission and you're not quite sure what it is. You can type in the frequency, hit search, and you'll see what station or stations it might possibly be. You can search to see what's going to be on at a particular time. You can search by country. We could put in, for example, Romania, and do a search, and we will see all the transmissions that are on the air right now from Romania. Any of the DRM transmissions, as you can see, are highlighted with the word digital. And in addition to broadcast stations, there's a select number of utility stations that are also built into the database. Searching by language is particularly handy. Say you only want to look for transmissions that are on in English, so maybe you can understand what they're actually saying. You can search for English, and you get a list of all the English transmissions. And again, of course, you can jump to particular meter bands. Under country, one interesting option is if you're interested in clandestine stations, you can type in clandestine, or you can actually just type in part of the word, hit search, and in this case we'll see what clandestine stations are currently on the air now. And again, if we turned only on now off and did a search, we get a list of all the transmissions, those that are currently on highlighted in bold, and those that are not on are not in bold. This schedule works in conjunction with the gray line map. I'm going to open that. This is the gray line map of the world right here. And it shows my current location here, this dark circle. You can enter in your longitude and latitude into the app settings, and it'll know where you are. It shows the location of the sun and the daytime and nighttime parts of the world, along with the all-important gray line. If you click path and you move your cursor around different parts of the world, you see plotted in white the great circle path to that location in the world. The dark gray path going the opposite direction is the long path. And if you look at the top of the window up here, it will show you the distance to that location along with the bearing or direction. The map also has built into it, if you're familiar with the network of ham radio beacons, you can pick one of the beacon frequencies and it will show currently which station is on the air along with the path to it and the distance. The stations transmit, a new station transmits every 10 seconds. There's a number of stations, and there's about a, I think about a 5-minute cycle period between all of the radio stations. But what's interesting for us right now is if you pick any stations here in the schedule, it will plot on the map the location of the station in red here, and it will show you the great circle path to the station, along with at the top of the window the distance to the station, and this is true for anything. So if you find a station, you might want to see, well, how far away is it? Is the path all through darkness? Is it on the gray line? As we can see right now, this part of the world here is, of course, very close to the gray line, so you might have better chances of picking up those stations. And the transmitter site information over here is what's used to plot the station on the map. I'm going to close that window just to reduce some of the clutter. The other thing you can do for any of these transmissions is you can right-click on them and you can do some other searches without having to type anything in. For example, you can get a list of all the other transmissions for a particular station just by right-clicking on one of the entries. Which is very handy. You can also get a list of what other stations are on a particular frequency. So if you're tuned into a station but you want to see, well, who else might it possibly be, you can also pull up that, and if there's anyone else on that particular frequency, you'll see it listed here. You can also look for other transmissions from a particular country or in a particular language. Or aim to a particular target area in the world. Another thing I will talk about are the reminders. The reminders window is a list of transmissions that you're interested in listening to. All you have to do is click on an entry, right-click, and say Add Reminder, and that reminder will be added to the window. The window is a list of all the stations, all the transmissions you're interested in hearing, sorted by time. Transmissions that are currently on the air now are in bold and are always at the top of the list. Then upcoming transmissions are just below that, and again, as you can see, everything's sorted by time. So it makes it a very convenient way to put in stations that you're interested in hearing without having to keep notes by your desk or hoping that you'll remember to tune in at a certain time. The list is continuously updated every minute, and you can set the app to alert you with an audible sound just before any stations that you're interested in are about to go on the air. You can, of course, right-click on any entries here, and you get the same options as before if you want to look for other transmissions by that station, on that frequency, and so on. One of the other windows we have is the logbook. DX ToolBox has a built-in logbook. So transmissions you hear, you can enter into the logbook. You can do this one of two ways. You can just bring up a new logging window and type in the station name, the frequency, how well it was received, your program details, and so on. Or, to save time, say you're tuned into something and you like to log that you've actually heard it. Just right-click and pick Log Broadcast. That new logging window will open up, and it will automatically be pre-filled in with the current date and time and the frequency of the transmission you picked, as well as the station name and the country. You then fill in the other information and the program details if you'd like, along with any other notes. And then you can click OK, and it'll be saved. And again, this saves you a lot of time. You don't have to enter all this information in by hand. Stations that you have heard, if you've sent it for a reception report, you can enter in the date that you sent it, along with the date that it was received, if it was received, and it'll compute for you how many days it took for you to get your QSL back. And you have a convenient listing you can see here of reports that have been sent and what's been received, so you can see what you still have outstanding that you haven't gotten back yet. And of course, entries in the logbook, you're able to right-click on those and again bring up some more windows if you want to see additional transmissions by that station on that frequency, and so on. The files for the logbook and the reminders are stored in the documents directory of your user account on your computer as simple files. They're accessible to you, so you can make backup copies of them if you like, which is always a good idea in case they were to get lost or damaged. It's always good to have a backup, and that makes it very easy for you to do. So here I've talked about a few of the features in DX ToolBox that are particularly handy if you are a shortwave listener. If you'd like to give DX ToolBox a try, you can do so. You can download a copy from the website without buying it first. Run through it, test it out. It runs uncrippled while you use it. You just get reminded to please buy it if you do decide to use it. If you do, that's what helps me be able to write this app and many of my other apps. So download a copy of it from my website with the URL listed here. And if you have any ideas for updates to it, new features you'd like to see, send me an email and I'll be happy to look into it. I get a lot of my best ideas from users. Thanks for watching the video. I'll be putting out some more videos going through some of the other features of DX ToolBox in the upcoming weeks.